Over 1 million students every year in the United States compete in high school track and field. And only 63,000 of these students end up competing post-secondary in the NCAA. And from there, only 21,000 students receive any sort of athletics scholarship. And of these athletes, only 900 will make it to the Olympic trials, and 120 will actually go to the Olympics. Meaning 1 in 9,000 of our original high school cohort will make an Olympic team, or 1 in 500 of those in the NCAA. But wait, here's the kicker. All of these numbers are according to an article by Medium on the likelihood of going to the Olympics as a child. And the way the author calculated this is flawed. He made a statistical error called a cohort mismatch. High school and NCAA eligibility is 4 years. So if these numbers were correct, the author would have to assume that every athlete competing in the Olympic trials and the Olympics are born within 4 years of each other. And we know that's not true, as athletes on the starting line or in the jumping pit at these events can be born a decade apart. So you might be one of the best current NCAA athletes with a chance at making an Olympic team, but you're competing against the athletes that came from the generation before you. These athletes have graduated from the NCAA 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. What this means is the odds of making the Olympics as a child isn't 1 in 9,000 as this article suggests. It's probably closer to 1 in 20,000 or 1 in 1,000 once you're in the NCAA. And that estimate is a conservative one. So what does the USA track world get wrong about developing distance runners? What can coaches, parents, athletes, and USA track and field itself do to maximize an athlete's 1 in 20,000 odds at making the Olympics? In this video, we answer that. Here are 5 things USA Track gets wrong about developing distance runners. Let's start with the crown jewel of the entire American development pipeline, the NCAA. There's a trendy and misguided narrative that peeks its head around the running community once in a while that says the NCAA isn't good for developing athletes. They'll say it's too intense, too short-term driven, treats all athletes the same, or one of many other similar criticisms. And here's the thing, these armchair quarterbacks are right. For some athletes, the NCAA is too intense and short-term for an athlete's development. At the same time, all of these criticisms can be right, but so secondary to the main benefit of the NCAA that it doesn't even matter. That main benefit is the resources provided to athletes. An unbelievable amount of these NCAA Division I track and field programs have world-class facilities, world-class coaches, a structured training program, elite competitions, physiotherapists and medical staff, and so much more. If you're on a scholarship, then those benefits extend to food being provided, rent being paid for, school being paid for. All you have to do is focus on running fast. The resources matter much more than the methods, because you can have the best genetics, but if you have nowhere to practice, no one to coach you, and nowhere to compete, never mind anything to eat or somewhere to live, the odds of you making the Olympics falls closer to 0 than 1 in 20,000, because you simply can't even participate. The NCAA allows you to participate in track and field at an elite level for free, or at a much lower cost than it otherwise would have. To show you how important the NCAA is, here are the Olympic medalists for every distance event from the 800 to the marathon, including the steeplechase since 2000. That's 22 medals from 19 athletes. Now, how many of these athletes had competed in the NCAA before? Take a guess. That's right, every single one of them. 100% of these athletes competed in the NCAA before. The NCAA to professional runner pipeline in America is the best development system for distance runners, and it's not even close. I made a video describing this pipeline right here, and it's so good at developing athletes solely by the resources it provides that every other country in the world takes advantage of the system and develops some of their best athletes using the NCAA. It's just that powerful. If you're an American, the NCAA is a must once you're post-secondary. Unless you're professional right out of high school like Hobbs Kessler or Cooper Lutkenhaus, then don't even bother looking for alternatives. Running is so expensive. We've gone through it before on this channel. Running is a lifestyle and nobody pays you for it. Shoes, travel, training, coaches, along with rent and food consume your whole life. The NCAA alleviates that and gives you 4 to 5 years to develop an athlete, or as an athlete. Because Because the stakes are so high to get that NCAA golden ticket, parents and youth coaches have fallen into a tunnel vision-like panic. Parents and coaches fall into the trap of thinking they need to specialize their child or their athlete as soon as possible. Athletes want to label themselves a 5,000 meter or a cross-country runner and then base their whole training and personality around that. Coaches and parents will watch shows like Born to Run, following the Ingebrigtsen family, and think right away that their sons or daughters or athletes need to go all in from an early age, withdraw from all other sports, and get a good base. Furthermore, they'll only train and race the events they identify themselves as specialists in. I've heard it time and time again. A freshman high school athlete will tell me a list of their personal bests, and then their parents will chip in right away and say, well, he's more of a miler than a 2-mile guy. At that age, the most you are is a runner. I've experienced more egregious stories where a father is at the track with his son, and the son was running an 800 meter from lane 6 at the 100 meter finish line. For those of you who don't know how insane that is, that's 876.6 meters of running. The kid finished his rep, and the father said how disappointed he was because his son had run 30 seconds slower than he had the week before at his race, and that he needed to work harder. Once I realized what was happening, I obviously told the father, but then he had his son rest 5 minutes and do it again from lane 1, expecting the same time from the week before. That's just not how it works. This athlete's coach probably ruined him in the long term. You're not getting much advantage for training if you're just redlining every rep, and that's terrible for the athlete's psyche too. The coach said his son was an 800 meter athlete, and then went with what he thought was a good and hard-working 800 meter running workout. And here's the thing, this is common. I've seen stuff like this more times than I can count. You've seen it too. The whole point here is that just because you want your athlete, or you the athlete, wants to become a certain specialist so badly, it doesn't mean it's going to work out like that. You're not a specialist at 12. First off, you're sacrificing all of your body adaptations from playing another sport or participating in another track and field event just to specialize in a singular track event. If you want to do that, you need a scientific and practical approach to your training. Having your father or amateur coach take that responsibility is just not enough. These coaches and ecosystems that the likes of the Ingebrigtsens grew up with isn't the one you're going to grow up with. You don't have a coaching staff with decades of experience. You don't have older brothers who are Olympians to guide you and whose resources can extend to you. Participate in as many track events as you can, or even field events. I remember back in high school, my countryman Brandon McBride ran the 200, 400, 400 meter hurdles and cross country in high school. And in his last 2 years, he started to focus on the 800 and ran a 1:46 by his senior year. He would go on to become the 800 meter record holder until Marco Arop beat it a few years back. Even myself, I was more of a 3,000 meter guy in high school, then a 1,500 meter runner a few years later, and then in my late 20s, I went to the 800 meter, which is where I'm specializing in now. I'm allowed to do this because I'm 32 years old and have a couple decades of training behind me. There's no reason why a 12 to 15-year-old should specialize in anything. Even at 16 and 17, you should be trying new events. Make your body learn how to run long and tired as well as short and fast. In the long term, it will pay off. And if you've been around the track for a while, the vast majority of Olympians were not specialized track stars in middle school. They were multi-sport athletes who didn't buckle down into a single event until their late teens. The third thing that most Americans get wrong is treating an athlete's biological and training age as the same. They should be treated differently. The biological age of an athlete is their actual age, while their training age is how long that particular athlete has been training. So you can have two athletes, one with 2 years of training and one with 7, yet they will both compete in the same age bracket because they're both 19 years old. The athlete with 7 years of training obviously has a massive advantage due to them training 3.5 times longer than the other athlete. Now, as time goes on, the advantage shrinks. These same athletes at 27 years old will now have 15 years of training and the other 10. That's only a 50% difference compared to the 250% difference 8 years before. Yet when these athletes are younger, you'll see training groups full of athletes who are similar biological ages, but are supposed to be in totally different stages of their training because their training ages are different. Now, combining athletes with different training ages can still work, but it's easier for the younger athlete to overdo it and build bad running habits in their efforts to keep up with their teammates. There needs to be an adjustment for the more untrained athletes so that they're compounding on good running adaptations adaptations over time similar to their teammates. This is hard to do too, especially in the earlier age groups like high school. You will always have the 14-year-old who has been training since they were 9 versus the student who's the same age but just bought their first pair of running shoes. It's easy to treat the athlete with a higher training age as just better than the other athlete, and in doing so screwing over the athlete who just joined the sport by letting him hang off the back of every run and workout that he or she has no business being part in. This is where nuance is needed, and is also where it gets difficult to do so as a coach, because they're often dealing with so many athletes at once, as well as they don't know which athletes actually care to be there or will be there next season. You get out what you put in, and many coaches have to speculate on which athletes are going to actually put in. The fourth thing that most Americans get wrong, and what all modern good coaches have been implementing as of late, is a good strength program. I see it's way more common than it was back in my day. Left to your own devices, if you just start running without a proper strength program, you're more likely to get injured. Running creates these massive imbalances that alter your form over time, making you slower and more injury prone. Everyone has seen it. That runner you meet for the first time in college who's been doing 90-mile weeks for the past 3 years when they had no business doing so. They skipped out on the weight room and now their running form looks like they're doing hula hoops because they can't keep their hips steady, or they're slouched down so low at their back that their stride lands a foot in front of them after every step. And the inefficiencies can be much more subtle than that. Once your muscles stiffen and you make the training adaptations on running with your new and improper form, it makes it so much harder to fix it later. Once you have to fix it, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. This is something I've done in the past when I came back to running after 7 years off, and it took me 2 full years to see a modest improvement. It's better to get it right the first time. You're also helping yourself run faster too in the long term. You are increasing your running economy, decreasing the amount of energy and oxygen your body requires to maintain a specific pace. When your legs hit the ground, a stronger, stiffer, musculoskeletal system absorbs that ground reaction force and snaps it right back into the track. It's free speed and so often neglected because it sucks. As athletes, we love running. There are days I'd rather get hit by a car than go to the gym after a hard workout, but I buckle down and do it anyways. Weights are just as important as the running. At least you need to treat it that way, because in the long term, it is. To put in perspective why strength training is so important, according to the British Journal of Sports Medicine, involving a survey of over 3,000 Olympians, nearly 2/3 of them experienced a severe injury in their athletic career. A further more than 1/3 of them said that they are in current pain and have limitations from the injuries they suffered in their Olympic career. Now, proper strength training wouldn't have fixed everyone's injuries, but the data, especially the post-career limitation data, would have looked better with the proper implementation of strength and mobility during their Olympic years. Many of these Olympic injuries are sport-specific injuries and overuse injuries. It's harder to overuse the tendons in your elbows and knees if they're stronger and if the muscles around them move in the order they're supposed to. The key to being a fast distance runner isn't hitting 100 miles a week of easy running, it's hitting 100-mile weeks of easy running properly and with good form. And you get that good form, at least in a major part, from strength training. This brings us to the hardest truth of them all. The thing that most Americans get wrong about distance running. It's that if you're not a professional after your post-secondary career, it just wasn't meant to be. I've said this in earlier videos, but the #1 reason track athletes retire isn't because they've felt like they've hit their physiological peak. It's because they've hit a point where they can't handle the Spartan lifestyle anymore. Running is hard. Running competitively is so much harder. It requires you to sacrifice at least a little bit of everything and a lot of something. Relationships, time, effort, pursuing a job to the best of your capabilities, money to spend, all of which you have to forgo just to wake up at 6 a.m. and go on your first run of the day. Physically, you are not at your peak after college. You have more in the tank, a lot more. It's just so much harder when all of the responsibilities, both financially and culturally, hit you in the face like a shovel the moment you graduate. Retirement doesn't look like a bald head and gray beard hairs and a reluctant sigh in the mirror saying, "It's time." It looks like a string of injuries that'll take you another 12 months to get back from. It looks like after a final race of a disappointing season, sitting in your backyard with a beer, asking yourself, what are you doing with your life? And asking, do you really want to keep living like this? Amateur sports are tough. You pay to compete, and eventually you run out of financial and spiritual capital. This is why it's so important to maximize the amount of years you're running track. Your later years of high school and throughout college are so important. Getting injured or having a setback in this sport is so brutal. Not only are you losing losing fitness, but you're missing out on the fitness you could have made in the meantime. And if you're not on the cusp of being world class after your collegiate career, it's so hard to keep going. It just really is. So to make the Olympics or global championships, build a foundation that lasts. Play the long game, because there is no quick path to stardom or superstar times. If you guys like this video and you want to know more about what actually kills the Olympic hopes of American distance runners, then you're going to love this video right in the middle here. So come click, and I'll see you there.